If you've ever used an AI assistant like Claude or ChatGPT, then you've had to learn a little bit about prompt engineering. Now, either you're writing your own prompts, maybe you've bought one out of a template pack, maybe you've gone quite advanced and you're creating your own custom GPT so that you have this reusable conversation that you can start off with new information. I'm writing prompts and using custom GPTs on a daily basis, but one of the things that happens more and more is that I have these repeatable sets of GPTs or agents that I want to run to solve specific business problems. And in this video, I want to continue the proof of concept application that I talked about in the last video, and we'll turn it into a minimum viable product, something that you could use to solve your own GPT workflows. In the last video, I talked about a proof of concept application that I'd put together for my own use called GPT Agent Workflow. And the idea is that you would come up with these workflows, like here it's the YouTube scriptwriter workflow. There'd be a research phase and you'd go from the basic idea, you would select an idea. From that, you'd develop some facts or details about the YouTube script that you want to write. That could come up with some video ideas and then you would select them, so on. And that would be part of the research phase. And after that, you would go into a new phase and that would be the develop script phase. You can see them up here on the left. So if we click on the research and development, you can see the workflow and that there's this idea that you go from left to right, from this idea to this one. Currently, we're on the basic fact sheet. And as you get to the last step, you would then move on to the next phase, which would be developing the script. Now, the problem with this particular application is it doesn't work. If you click here, nothing actually happens because this was a proof of concept. What I was really trying to do here is figure out what would happen if I had this prompt and we'll put a little variable called idea. If I said, let's do a cool idea goes here, what would be nice is if I could go and click on a button somewhere like copy workflow and put it straight into ChatGPT or whatever AI assistant I'm using. Or maybe click the little start button down here to have it run the prompt for me. So with the proof of concept now demonstrating how I see an agent workflow tool working, let's move into the minimum viable product. And what we'll do is we'll just click back to the overview. And this is what we've currently got for this particular workflow. And I'm just going to change the URL a little bit on my system and you'll see that it changes ever so slightly. So what we've got now is a agent workflow tool written a little bit differently to the old one. And when we click on things, they actually work. So we can now go from idea to idea. We can come down to the little arrows here, and as we get to the last one, it should say let's move on to the next phase, and that would be the develop script. Now, the good thing about the minimum viable product is it's configured exactly the same way as the proof of concept. So what we can do here is we'll go and select the selected idea. Cool ideas go here. Notice that at the moment it's on 3 and you can't click on anything. Nothing actually works in this particular variation of the tool. But we move to the new version and we can go and click on the basic fact sheet. And there's this interpolated variable that we can put in called idea. Now, I know that this selected idea and this don't match. So I'm just going to call this selected idea right there. What will happen is if I paste in a value here, it should appear here. And we'll put it in. If we want it in another part of the prompt, we can just paste it in like that and it just gets replaced. And the good thing is there's a copy button here that when we click on it, we'll see this little copied to clipboard. It's ready for me to use. In the final product, I'd like to have a start button, and in this case it'd call Claude, or we could have it send it to 2 different large language models at the same time, or just choose large language models based on the particular step that you're on. Pop up the GPT window, we'll just paste everything in. So what it's got is, I need you to gather detailed and reliable information about the cool idea goes here. So if we just pop into this view and we've got cool idea again, and we'll just let it run. From the prompt template and a couple of variables, you should be able to get your detailed prompt ready to go, paste it into your large language model, and it goes and does its thing. The next step from that is that whatever the output is that we're seeing coming through right now becomes the input for the next step in the workflow. I'm calling this tool Agent Workflow Builder and I'm developing it and demonstrating it as I go. Now, if you want access to some of the code, which will be open source, or if you're more interested in using this as a SaaS application, then click on the link in the description. Now, the way I'm building this application is with a technique that I call flow code. So if you've heard of no-code application generators, they're usually user interfaces. You drag and drop and it produces code. For me, flow code just stands for a freaking lot of code, and it's taking small inputs and creating working sets of code that solve problems. So when I first started writing this application, this is where I started. It was just a simple mind map around a workflow that I'd been doing every time I did a video. And I took a copy of that workflow and I just dropped it into ChatGPT. I said, can you read this information? Now, I've just done a refresh on that window, and what you'll see is that it's quite a long conversation. It went for a couple of days, usually just talking to the phone to build things. But some of the stuff that it came up with was entity relationship diagrams for different workflows. I was also testing concepts like data flow diagrams. And what this allowed me to do was develop a schema. I was able to work through the key components that I wanted in the application. So with that in place, I was able to start a new application using Astro here. And I then developed a bunch of the key components like the workflow, the prompts, the settings, etc. And I was able to do this by just talking to the ChatGPT window. Here I'm developing some data models in TypeScript. Next, I used Tailwind CSS. I don't consider myself a good JavaScript or Tailwind CSS sort of developer, but the great thing about ChatGPT is that it can do all the coding for you so long as you know how to prompt it. And that's a lot of what this video series is about, is just talking about how I solve problems as a programmer who may not actually be a polyglot in the different languages that I want to use. Now, a lot of the information you just saw was about building the proof of concept application in Astro with Tailwind CSS. But then I wanted to make it a little bit dynamic, and that requires getting into client-side JavaScript. Now, my first approach was to have conversation with GPT about integrating Alpine.js, and it was working a little bit, but it was getting a bit bogged down, and I thought, well, maybe I need to use a proper client-side framework. So I decided to use Svelte, and the minimum viable product that you're about to look at was written by converting the Astro components to Svelte components. I'm not going to go into detail on how I'm writing the application in this video. If that's a video you want to see, let me know in the comments below. But we're back here at now the minimum viable product, and we're going to put it through its paces by developing a workflow today. So let's quickly demonstrate a real world example. So here I've got a channel called AI TLDR. It's about 2.5 months old, and I've created 30 videos, and one of the videos recently was, is Flux One a better alternative to Midjourney? So here's part of the workflow that I use for the AI TLDR channel, and we're in the research and development phase. And I've got create 5 simple project ideas for an idea, and the idea happens to be Flux One versus Midjourney. And if I head over to ChatGPT and paste it in, we come up with a list of potential project ideas for the video, and I can copy them in and head over to the next step where I've just pasted it into the ideas. One of the future things that I want to do with this tool is have the ability to select an idea, but at the moment that's not there. I've put in the idea I want to work with. Art generation, Flux One versus Midjourney. I can click copy on this to get the prompt, and then just head over to any AI assistant that you're using, paste it in, and you'll get a whole lot of information. From there, I've just copied all the information that you see, moved over to the next tab where I want to get some video ideas, and I've pasted in the original idea, and we've also got the fact sheet that we've just developed. I can click the copy, get the new prompt. I want to do a YouTube video, Flux versus Midjourney, and we got the basic fact sheet. And down below, we've got a bunch of video ideas that we can work with. So I tend to then select that information, head back to the GPT workflow, and we're on the expanded fact sheet where we've got the original idea, we've got the basic fact sheet that we developed, and now we've got a video idea that I selected that I want to do information on. From there, I can build out an extended fact sheet that we're looking at right here. So all the information, background information about the company, how users are using it, is it fast, what's its pricing model. I've got every piece of information that I might need for either the YouTube video, which is what I used it for, but you could also use it for an article if that was what you were developing. I've just shown you how I use agent workflows to create a YouTube script, but what if we want to come up with a new workflow altogether? Well, the good thing is I've created a workflow called Agent Workflow Architect, and the idea is that you want a workflow objective. What are you trying to achieve? What are the steps that would be involved in achieving that target? Can they be organized? Are there groups of steps that you want to do? Let's come up with a cool name. The name in this particular case is Agent Workflow Architect, and then develop a specification. There's future phases that are coming along. The example workflow for publishing a video on YouTube. This is my main channel, and here the steps that I need to do is I need to come up with a thumbnail. There's the text that I want to put on the thumbnail and the title that I want to have for the YouTube video. If we look at this particular video, Pong to Pac-Man, when I uploaded it, I had the transcript, but what I then needed to do was create a whole lot of extra information in the YouTube description. So here we've got the overview of what the video is all about. We've got a little bit of a call to action to buy me a coffee. We got a headline going on. After that, we've got the chapters of the video. From there, there's some branding information about myself, social media accounts that you can go to, useful affiliate links, and then we got the visualization of the chapters that we just looked at. There'll be a bunch of tweets that I produce, and also a bunch of LinkedIn articles and Facebook posts. So let's head back to the Agent Workflow Architect. We'll click on the objective and we'll put in an idea. And the first one will be YouTube video publisher. That's basically what I'm also going to paste in a goal here, and we can see that come down the bottom. I don't bother to clean up the text. If there's mistakes in it, that's okay. But basically I'm asking a set of agents that will automate various aspects of the YouTube video release. When I currently release a video, I have to come up with title and text on the thumbnail. Then I need to create a YouTube description, and that's usually got chapters and brand information. Finally, I need to publish to LinkedIn and Twitter, etc. I've put that information in, and from there we can just copy the button. Head over to a new ChatGPT window or whatever AI assistant you're using, and we're passing this information in. So we move on from the workflow objective to the list of steps. We've got an agent objective, which we just got from the previous ChatGPT window. We'll paste that in. We'll click on the copy button, and then we could paste it directly in. But what I'll do is I'll just start a new ChatGPT window, and I'll paste it here, because generally when I'm doing my individual prompts, they have enough context in them to do whatever's needed to be done. You don't need to flow on from a previous conversation. We're on organized steps. I'm just going to paste the information into the list step here. One of the things you might have noticed is that I've got this bar down the bottom saying language model, where you can select various language models that you might want to send the prompt to, and a start button. But that's coming in a future version of the software. It's come up with a workflow that thinks that there should be a content planning and creation phase with a bunch of steps going on. There would be the review and optimization, and then finally the publishing and distribution. I had a go at this yesterday, so I'm going to use some different information that I've manually modified. So we can see the list here, which it came up with yesterday. It was pretty accurate, but I went through and I manually modified a couple of areas. I tend to create a summary from the transcript, then I'll create an abridgment, which is a different type of summary. After that, I want to get some metadata like potential topics, keywords. We can get a good title, get a thumbnail text, get optimized text, and then finally we create the YouTube description, tweet, Facebook post, and LinkedIn. It then developed a grouping for me. That's the way it initially looked, but I went and modified it a little so that I could have additional information. So our final one is going to look like video analysis and preparation, title and thumbnail optimization, and video and social media creation. Head back over to our workflow. We'll move on to the organized list, and I'm just copying that information in. From here, we can take a copy and let's get some potential names for the workflow. I could open up a new ChatGPT window. For today, we'll test it by just using the current conversation. That should also work well. We got a list of potential names here. I generated a new one. Anytime I need more, I can just press refresh from here, and these sort of capabilities I would like to build into the tool. The one I ultimately went with, which was from yesterday, was Video Launch Optimizer. So we're over at the specification. I'm just going to put in the name I like. We've got our organized list going on here. We'll copy it and create a detailed specification of the different phases of the workflow, the different steps within the workflow, and what the input and the output parameters will be. So we'll just kick it off. There's a structured shape that I'd like the output to be in, and we're getting all the information ready. As you look through it, we've got different phases: video preparation, title and thumbnail, content creation. We've got different steps like summarizing, abridgments, analyzing and adding the metadata, a description going on, and then it starts building out what it thinks the input and the output parameters should be. So the transcript would be an obvious input, and what we get a video summary. The transcript and the video summary might be an input. Now this is not correct. I would manually modify this and we would get a video abridgment, because I see the summary and the abridgment as similar but different pieces of information that I want to capture. So now I have a detailed specification of what the workflow should have, and ChatGPT has come up with what parameters it thinks I need, but I'm going to go through and manually change them. The main parameter I use all the time with my video workflows is the transcript. Whatever I said in the video is what I want to use as the source of truth. From that, I want to get keywords. After I've got these bits of information, then I can go and generate titles and content using this extra information. So the last thing we'll do is we'll take it and let's turn it into a user interface where we can enter this information ourselves. So the first 5 steps that we've done, being around the agent workflow design, are here, and we're on the last step and we can go down. Now I also have this concept of output attributes. So anything here is where when the GPTs are being run and you're getting information, it goes into these variable names. So hopefully we're going to have a specification filled in with the table we just created. And that'll happen when we go over to the create DSL. But we can do that by pressing this down arrow that takes us to the next phase. And we've got our phase. It says generate DSL. We've got the original name of the workflow that we want to work with. We've got a list of the organized steps, and we've got this table. If we open it up, we can see the table all listed here. From that, we can just click on the copy button, head over to a new GPT window, and we'll just paste everything in. And what this is doing is producing a programming language that I created, whose only job is to recreate workflows. When we run this, we'll get a visualization very similar to the screens that we're looking at here. We'll let that finish. It's still going at the moment, and we'll just press copy on it. I've just pasted the workflow in here, and you can think of it as GPT agent workflows as code. And as code, we can see that we've got an agent creation. What are we creating? It's the YouTube Launch Optimizer. I did change it from video to YouTube. There's a description going on. It's got a place where the prompts are going to be stored, and what default large language model do you want to use? I want to use ChatGPT 4.0. Then the prompts are all listed here. This is where it will find them. The attributes that we've been defining are all listed. And then there are 3 phases. Phase 1 is the video preparation, where to summarize the video, we take the transcript, we use the video summary prompt, and we produce the video summary. And this is just repeating over and over for each phase. When I hit save, it'll automatically create a user interface for me. Currently it says GPT workflows, YouTube Launch Optimizer is not found. But the moment I hit save, it becomes available. And here we have video preparation with summarize, abridgment, video analysis, and add the metadata. And the good thing is, because I use ChatGPT to create all of these workflow steps, it only takes a couple of minutes to create this complex user interface using the GPT workflow as code as an intermediary system. Now, in the future, I won't do it that way. I'll build this into a SaaS application where it'll be a little bit more streamlined. This is how I'm doing it today. So now that the workflow is created, we could use it today, but the video that you're watching, I'm going to edit it with that transcript. I'll be coming through to this workflow and I'll be typing it into this location. As for the prompts, now I've already done some videos at the beginning of the year called 7 GPTs to Grow Your Channel in 2024. And the transcript summary that we talk about here is dealt with in that particular video. There's also a video here called SEO GPT Boosted SEO for YouTube descriptions. So this is where I'm going to get the prompt for the YouTube description. I've got one for the LinkedIn, I've got one for the Twitter, and I've got a few others that I'll add in. I'll talk about how the agent workflow as code, or the DSL, actually works behind the scenes, and we'll have a look at the script from this video in the next video as it produces the YouTube description and the LinkedIn post and the tweets. I'm Happy Dave. Like and subscribe if this is something that you want to keep following. I've got a link in the description if you want to find out more about the project, either from the SaaS application that I'll be launching sometime in the future, or from the open source code that you might want to use if you want to add to or extend this particular project. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.